We force ourselves too much, get too much, until we forget just being. Hi, I'm Isabel Rolo, and welcome to the show, Let It Shine. Let it shine. Welcome to Let It Shine show. Today is with us Daniel Alfred Watt. Welcome.
Thank you.
And for the people that they don't know you, who is Daniel?
Who is Daniel? I ask myself that every day. But in all seriousness, I am a citizen of the world. I am a musician, and by such I mean I'm a conductor, an orchestral conductor.
So you are a maestro.
I am a maestro, indeed.
Maestro.
Don't let it go to my head. Maestro, I'm also a pianist, a concert pianist, and I'm music director of the Orange County Youth Symphony Orchestra, which is based here in Orange County and is at Chapman University. And I am also an educator, offering pre-professional training to young musicians, and my capacity as music director at the Orange County Youth Symphony Orchestra, but also at Chapman University, where I direct the orchestras. So I wear many hats. So
wow.
Who is Daniel? He wears a lot of hats. Depends on the hour and the day, I suppose.
When you found the music?
When did I found the music? I think the music found me. I was very young, and I would point to the radio in my crib. Apparently, that's what I'm told. I don't remember. But my parents are avid music lovers, amateur lovers, but they're very knowledgeable. And I would point to things, and I would want to hear things, and that's how it happened. And I was 5 years old, I think, when they gave me a little toy piano. Which is what I wanted, one of those Fisher-Price toy pianos. And it's actually still in my office. I think these guys have seen it as well, and we'll introduce them in a minute too. But it's actually still in my office, and that was my first piano. And I took the piano training and professional concert training as far as I wanted to go with it. But I always wanted to be maestro and work with the orchestra. Okay. So that's where I went with that.
So you was pretty sure since you was a child
that
you want to be a maestro.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, my grandfather came and visited us when we were living in California. I say I'm a citizen of the world because I was actually born in Israel.
Oh, okay.
But we moved to California, to the Bay Area, when I was very young. And then we went back to Israel. And then we moved to France, and then we moved back to the States, and then we moved back to Israel, and we moved to Switzerland, and we moved back to... So, like I said, I really am the true global citizen, depending on where the world is. And I've played concerts in Spain, in your home country, which I adore. And I said all that, and I forgot where I was going with all of this. But
about your grandfather?
My grandfather, of course. He came and visited us. Sorry about that. It's been a long day. He came and visited us in California, and he wrote a little poem. And I think I was 5 at the time, and he said, this kid, I'm paraphrasing, this kid the child will either be a dictator or a conductor. So it's very apt. And of course, they know the same. So it's the similar, absolutely. A conductor is very similar to a dictator. Really? So apparently I had some contentious, part of my character already back then. And it's quite interesting.
But you'll be a nice dictator, right?
I'm a nice dictator. I'm a benevolent dictator.
A more happy dictator.
I'm a happier dictator, I think. I hope so.
And you come in here with...
I come here fully armed. I come here fully armed with 2 members of the Orange County Youth Symphony Orchestra, 2 of our very proud members. In no particular order. Forgive me, I should probably introduce ladies first, I think. Of course, Melody Tai.
Hello, Melody.
Hi.
Melody, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, who is Melody?
I am 15 years old, and I'm a sophomore at Glen A. Wilson High School, and I play the harp in Ocyso.
Yeah, this is a beautiful toy. The harp.
An expensive toy.
Yeah, how much is a harp?
A harp? Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, a salvi like this?
This one was about 15,000.
15,000.
15,000.
Easy.
Easy.
And your shoes.
15,000, yes. We have to be very careful when we carry that. Yeah,
and the cello gentleman?
I'm Jonas Cervantes, 15 years old, homeschooler, junior year in high school, and that's it.
Jonah is our co-principal cellist and has been with the orchestra now. How long have you been with us?
This is my 4th year.
4th year. 4th year. When Jonah arrived at Orange County Youth Symphony Orchestra, he was about this big. And every week that I see him, he seems to be getting taller and taller. He also grows wonderfully as a musician and as a person, but Only 15, really? Wow. Anyway, and Melody, this is your first year with us, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
It is your first year with us. Wonderful.
How many years you will say then people need to be a maestro?
To be a maestro, to be a conductor. The first thing about being a maestro is that you have to have proficiency in an instrument. So either a cello or I don't know many harpists, maestros who are harpists.
No.
Actually, to tell you the truth,
They need to play the piano?
they
Or-
do need to
yeah.
play the piano. It is very helpful to play the piano because, as you know, playing the piano has a lot of different parts and harmonies, and you hear many different parts. And it's like being in front of an orchestra. Being in front of an orchestra, you have to hear everything. But you don't see many 5-year-old conductors, orchestral conductors or maestros. You will see some 5-year-old pianists. So it takes a while because also you have to develop enough authority and you have to develop enough experience to be able to stand in front of a group of people. So a conductor doesn't necessarily tell people what to do, but he hopefully or she inspires them to do their best. And that's what we strive for at Ocyso, and that's what I strive for whenever I conduct anywhere. I don't necessarily,
So
all
he's
kidding
a leader.
aside,
Yeah, he's a leader.
he's a leader, absolutely
And a
a leader.
teacher.
And a teacher at the same time. And 50% psychiatrist and 50% teacher.
Oh.
Because there's a lot of psychology involved with an orchestra on how to get people to do the best. Let's not forget also.
But I was in one of the rehearsals, and you don't speak too much. I mean, with the people, it's more playing and playing and playing.
Yeah. Well, orchestras don't like, or any groups of musicians don't like to be talked to. They like to play. And if you can communicate through your gesture, basically, what do we do? We're communicating silently. I can't speak. They're playing. So I have to be able to find gestures, a repertoire of gestures, everyone with the stick and all of this stuff, that they can understand what it is that I'm saying to them, and hopefully talk as little as possible. So it's very common for conductors, hopefully, not to talk too much,
And
except for now, apparently.
So, and it's part to be a good musician. Speak through your instrument, right?
Correct. Speaking through your instrument is who you are as a person and as a musician. Unfortunately, a conductor speaks through, or fortunately, that's a beautiful thing, a conductor speaks through an orchestra. That's our instrument. Our baton, what we hold, I don't have mine with me, I apologize. What we hold is a piece of wood. That's all it is. It doesn't make any sound.
So there's no magic?
There's no magic. Oh, of course, there's plenty of magic. I always say there's a lot of magics, but it's not Harry Potter's wand.
No?
It's sorry. It's what comes behind it. It's the musicianship. It's the knowledge. It's how much you've studied, how much you've learned, that you have to bring into the situation, into the rehearsal, into the performance. And the worst thing you can do is to be unprepared and not to treat the musicians with the respect that they deserve.
So it's about respect.
Ultimately, it's about respect that goes both ways between the orchestra and the conductor. You can't demand respect pretty much from anything in life, and certainly not when you have 80 musicians, let's say in the Orange County Youth Symphony Orchestra, who each are so talented in their own right. How do you tell them what to do? Well, the only way you can inspire them to do is to show them the respect that you have for them as human beings, as musicians. And collectively, there is more talent, if we think about it, in those 80 musicians than you or I will ever have, because we're only one person. And now it multiplies and becomes 80 people, and everyone has their own idea. Jonah will have his own idea about how a particular phrase has to go or how he thinks or whatnot. So it's very often a respectful dialogue between us. So, well, you want to try this, or do you want to try it? And I'll say, all right, let's try that. Or I'll say, no.
But he maybe will be try.
But at least we'll try. Absolutely. At least we'll try. And he's a wonderful leader, and he works with them. And he has a large section behind him of, how many cellos do we have?
About over a dozen.
Yeah, over a dozen. I think 14 or 15 cellos. Melody's in a different situation because as a harpist, you're usually only one in an orchestra. One or two.
Only one.
Maybe two sometimes. There are some crazy pieces that call for 3 harps. Wagner, but it's very rare. So Melody is our principal harpist, and she is our harpist, and so she's back there a little bit by herself, but she has a very important job because she's by herself. She has a solo. So it's a very different dynamic for her than it is, let's say, for Jonah, who has a large section behind him.
And for master instrument, for example, is different to master the instruments in general, or depend on the instruments, or depend on the musician?
Each instrument brings its own set of challenges.
For example, the harp.
The harp, oh, the harp has its challenges as well, and the Melody probably tell us more about that than I can.
Well, you have 7 pedals and 47 strings, and it takes a lot of coordination to move your hands and your feet at the same time.
How long they was taking you? How long you was studying?
I've been studying for about 6 years now.
6 years.
Yeah, the harp, one of the most difficult things for a harp, and I'm not sure that we can see it because of the podium, but down there are literally 7 pedals, and there are 3 on the left side and 4 on the right side. You say I got it right. As a conductor, you have to study certain things, and you have to coordinate all of these movements with your feet, a little bit like an organist. And she then has to use both of her hands, as you'll hear when she plays. She has to coordinate all of that. So a harp is actually very difficult. The other challenging thing about a harp, not that I want to put words in your mouth, Melody, but is tuning. Is that every single one of these strings here, these 47 strings, a piano, by the way, has 88, for instance, 88 keys, so that's 47. They have to be tuned individually. Every single one of these has to be tuned manually. So it's
Every day.
Not only every day, every 5 minutes.
Every 5 minutes.
Every 5 minutes.
Wow.
There's a joke with harps, and I say this lovingly, of course, Melody, but there's a joke that harpists spend half their life tuning their instrument and then spend half their life playing out of tune.
Okay.
So it's a little bit of a joke, but
We can hear how they sound.
of course, of course. Would you like to play something for us?
Oh, okay. Do you want me to play the whole?
It's up to
Anything that you want.
Okay. Well, I have 2 pieces, so.
Pick which one you want. And would you tell us what it is? Because even I don't know what it is.
I'm going to be playing Nocturne by Glinka.
Okay.
A Nocturne by Glinka, Russian composer.
Oh, beautiful. Bravo. Bravo.
Thank you. Nice to know.
I was called that one a magic harp.
A magic harp? Indeed, indeed.
So beautiful.
That's a beautiful.
Thank you, Millie. Very
Thank you for
talented.
Wonderful. We're very proud of
And
her.
how she can memorize all these notes?
Well, you know, part of the pre-professional training that, you know, the Orange County Symphony Orchestra does as the official orchestra of Youth Orchestra of Orange County is we don't only teach them about music. We teach them also about concentration and, for instance, how do you memorize something like that? Well, it takes concentration, it takes maturity, it takes focus, and to be a part of an orchestra like this and to be able to be a musician of this caliber, it takes a maturity level.
Because the orchestra choose the
Absolutely.
The musician.
The orchestra chooses the musicians by audition, and the auditions happen every summer. And we have a very lots of applicants, of course, and we have to audition them. And we can't take everyone who comes. We have hundreds of people who come and audition, and we only take the best of the best at the top. So we have anywhere between 70 musicians and 85 musicians, etc. Our room can't hold much more than that. So as you saw, I think when you came and visited us,
it was amazing.
And we couldn't fit them all in here, so we decided to just bring 2 of them. So, but there are a lot more. So many talents, and yeah, and that's what we do.
Tell me about your instrument, the cello.
Well, the cello.
It's the easy one, right?
So
if I had to choose,
you have to choose between the 2 of these, and you think you choose the cello? Well, it only has 4 strings as opposed to 47.
So it's not the coordination of which string you're playing. The hardest part with the cello, as well as any other string instrument, is the lack of frets or markers on the fingerboard, meaning that this can be, if it's just that much further up, it's off, and it's off tune. You can hear that. So it takes a lot of concentration to play the correct pitches, as well. The bow technique is with all string instruments very difficult. You have to keep it very precise, or else you get a really weak sound. And just the maintenance of it as well. We need to make sure it's clean, make sure you maintain the bow, and so it's a lot harder than a lot of people realize.
How long lasts the bow?
How long does it last? Well,
it depends on how much you play.
I mean, the stick lasts pretty much for as long as it stays in size. This is a full-size cello, full-size bow. The hair, usually you want to rehair that every 2 months or 1 to 2 months. And that starts to wear it out a little bit, and as well as the strings, these need to be replaced every now and then. But the wood itself and the instrument can last you for however long you keep it safe.
Or hundreds and hundreds of years. In the case of the Stradivariuses and the famous instruments, they're still with us from the 1600s. But it's all, as Jonas said, it's all about the care and the maintenance. People underestimate how important the bow actually is, because again, the instrument, of course, is the heart, because it's where the resonance and where everything happens. But if you don't have a good bow, it can make a huge difference. String players can talk to it more than a pianist who doesn't use a bow can, or a harpist. So. Yeah.
Can you play a little bit for us?
Yeah, actually prepared a little piece. It's a piece composed by George Frederick Handel, as well as a guy called Johann Halvorsen. It's actually a duet between violin and cello, but some guy came along and he arranged it for solo cello. So you kind of have parts that sound like it's 2 instruments, but it's just only 1. So it's cool to listen to it.
Okay. Listen. Wow. Yeah, they speak through.
They speak through their instruments.
Yes.
Yeah, they do. They
Amazing.
do.
Between the violin and the cello, which one is more complicated? in
Oh
your
gosh.
opinion?
Don't ask a cellist that question, and don't ask a violinist that
No, I
question,
asked you,
because
the
yes, that's
maestro.
very good.
Because I don't ask.
They're both very
Yes.
difficult instruments.
Uh-huh.
You know, the cello is considered more of the human voice. Because its range, as you hear, sounds a little bit more like where we speak. A violin's higher. The smaller the instrument, the higher the sound, the higher the pitch. The larger the instrument, the lower the sound. That's the big double bass, of course, is a much lower instrument. This sits sort of in the middle range. And so the cello has a very human quality to it. So many composers have been drawn to writing for it because it sounds very human. The violin is a little bit more, a chance to be a little bit more virtuosic in a sense, don't kill me, Jonah, a little bit more show-off, because it is higher and because it's a little easier to stand around and play and you think. So, but they're both, there is no easy instrument. No instrument is easy.
So if I asking you which one will be the more difficult instrument, is no any answer to this question?
There really isn't. I think that would be unfair. I think that there are some instruments that maybe are a little easier to start on for, let's say, a young musician or for a young person. Actually, the cello is easier for a youngster to start because the awkwardness of a violin or a viola is literally this. I mean, you're literally having to do this. It's a very awkward position for a human being to have to do. I don't know how they do it, but they do it. This is a little bit more natural, which also why it also speaks a little bit more to the human, because it sits and you're embracing it. You actually embrace the cello.
Similar to the guitar too, right?
Very similar to a guitar. Very similar. You heard a moment in there that sounded pretty much reminded you a little bit of Spain, and where it sounded a little bit like a guitar moment. We call that a pizzicato, where they pluck the strings, as he did in that section there. And that's very much the way a guitar also plays for the most part. So it's very much like that. But I think, you know, every instrument is difficult too. The harp is very, very difficult to start on as well. The piano may be one of the easiest instruments to start because it's automatic. You press a button and it plays. But I'd like to say that it's the hardest to master. Okay, sorry, but because it is easier to play, but it's very hard to make something very beautiful out of it.
Master instrument, how many years, in your opinion, will we take?
Beyond a lifetime.
Okay.
Beyond a lifetime.
So you never
I don't
master.
think you never master your instrument. I think the beauty of any art form, actually, if it's painting or if it's sculpture or if it's anything that we do, is that you're constantly striving to be better and better at what you do. The minute that you're happy with yourself, I think, and content as an artist, I think it's not very interesting anymore for anyone. Then it becomes routine or something easy. So,
in your opinion, Daniel, everybody has talent to play an instrument, or is people done?
I think everyone should be encouraged, if they have a passion and an interest in music, to try. I don't think everyone is going to end up in Carnegie Hall, but I think that everyone should at least be encouraged to play an instrument. And it can be anything from the guitar, which I adore, to the cello, to the harp, to the violin, to the woodwinds, the piccolo, the flutes, the horns, trumpets, whatever it is that you like to do something. You know, be active, be a real musician, find your passion. Don't just play the radio. You know, also, I mean, it's important. And, you know, these days with economic, these difficult economic times, and we've seen cuts to music programs and art programs in our schools. Here in California, we've been devastated. But I have to say that it's across the country. They're a little more knowledgeable and progressive about it in Europe than they are here. They have a little more of an awareness that it is important to one's soul and one's intelligence. There are hundreds of studies that show that art and music actually make you smarter, and that connection to mathematics and connection to sciences and all. And it's very...
Yeah, because music is pure mathematics.
Music is, to a certain extent, in a pure form, is mathematics. Absolutely. I don't like to think so because I'm a terrible mathematician. I can't even add on my checkbook. But truthfully, music is very much mathematics. And it's important that we realize what an important effect this has on development of young children. So it's important that if someone has an interest as a parent, give them an instrument or find them a teacher or find them a young student like this and they can work with them, or encourage them to be in their school band or in their orchestra or anything like that, which is why Ocyso exists, to offer that bridge. Perhaps there isn't a school orchestra, perhaps there isn't an opportunity. So we provide that opportunity for them before they go into college, where there usually is an orchestra. So we can provide that opportunity for them. So that's why we exist. That's why we do what we do. And I get to spend every week 2 or 3 hours with these wonderful people.
A magic world.
In a magical world. We don't have to think about ugliness. We don't have to think about wars. We don't have to think about politics, elections, hurricanes. We just get to think for 2 or 3 hours. It's a privilege to just think about music and try to do the best that we can. And that's what I try to tell the kids every week as well. And the big kids too, the older kids in the orchestras as well, that this is a privilege. And we only have an hour and a half or 2 hours. Let's enjoy it. Let's enjoy every minute that we do.
Thank you. And we enjoy to having you in Let It Shine show.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's our pleasure.
Thank
really
you
our
for
pleasure.
coming.
Thank you both as well.
We want you back. So
Anytime, anytime. And please come see us also at the Orange County Youth Symphony Orchestra. And remember to check us online as well at www.ocyso.org. I have to remember that as well. Forgive me. And the reason, for instance, I should mention that we have the British and the American flag on is because we have a tour, very exciting tour this summer, that the orchestra will be going to the United Kingdom, to England.
Oh, wow,
and play concerts in
congratulations.
England. So we're very proud of that. Looking forward to it.
All the best,
thank you.
guys. See you soon.
Absolutely. We'll see you soon. And in the meantime,
let it shine. Just remember, people, yes, let it shine.